Get ready to embark on an electrifying entrepreneurial journey.
Join us as we dive into the minds of 5 extraordinary entrepreneurs who have scaled online businesses to awe-inspiring heights. Gary Green, Chris Miller, Lori Brown, Bobby Christie, and Terry Wilson are here to share their secrets of success.
From visionaries to marketing mavens, these remarkable individuals will unveil their strategies, challenges, and pivotal moments that shaped their rise.
The Big 5 podcast starts now.
I don't know if you're wearing your members only jacket, or if you've got a Swatch watch, or if you're watching Miami Vice right now and trying to act like Don Johnson. But I'm in a room of some very cool cats that's going to teach you tonight or today, whenever you're listening to this podcast, how to learn. So, how do we learn, folks? What's the trick to learning, to picking up a new skill, to figuring something out? I don't know. How do you learn, Lori?
Well, let me start out by asking you, Terry, when I say the word disciple, who or what do you think of?
Well, you know what I think of.
That's why I asked you.
I think of if anyone desires to be my disciple, then let him deny himself, pick up his cross, and follow me.
Follow me. There you go.
I think of Jesus.
Of course you do. But a disciple is actually a disciplined learner, right?
Yeah.
And so what does it mean to be disciplined? Someone who's disciplined is a rule follower. That's me. I read the directions. I follow them.
Now, Lori, I just heard before we hit record, you're not a rule follower. And then we hit record.
Okay, it depends. It depends.
Okay.
I'm not
on the topic,
On the topic.
I'm a rule follower. I'm a rule follower. I'm not a crowd follower. That's why I didn't have a members only jacket.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Okay. I don't have a Coach purse. I don't care about that stuff.
You had a denim jacket.
Exactly. Exactly. I did have a denim jacket. And, a lot of times people think discipline means punishment, but it's teaching or knowledge. My dad, God love him, best dad in the world, my hero. He was not only a musician, had a beautiful bari tenor voice. He was an educator. So I grew up in that environment of music and education because he was a music educator. And that man at 92 was still reading like the newspaper, Kiplinger report.
Oh, wow.
All this stuff at 92.
Yeah.
And he was, just still sharp as a tack. And what that taught me was you have to commit to being a lifetime learner. So, when you graduate high school or college, you're not done. You can't possibly learn everything there is to learn in the world in your lifetime, but you commit to always trying to edify yourself or elevate yourself with some sort of new knowledge. And that takes discipline, control, efficiency. Now, as far as, I guess, being a learner, if you think there's a theory of psychology called the Gestalt theory of psychology, and that has been applied to learning and how people learn. And what it says is people learn better if they can see the big picture, in other words, the whole part. And then as they're learning the individual parts, they're connecting to the big picture, the big part, the whole, by different stimuli. So that could be reading something. It could be someone teaching you something. It could be you hearing something. It could be you practicing something. So all those things all work together, and they're going to have more meaning as you're learning the parts to understand what that whole picture is.
Oh, that's good.
And then other people are all people learn different. Some people are auditory learners, some are visual learners. But most people need to have some of all of that. And the other thing is, so here's a practical example. If I want to learn how to do something, and God, you can look on YouTube, and if you want to know how to do something, there's a video on how
for
to
real.
do
You can
it.
rebuild an engine just with YouTube.
I'm on there all the time.
Yeah.
So what I do if I'm trying to learn something by watching a video, there's a visual, I'm hearing it, I'm watching it. I will watch through the entire video one time, so I have a big picture.
Oh,
right?
Great technique. Yes.
And then I start all over and I play a bit
and start dissecting it.
Then I watch that and then I go and do.
Right.
And I'm talking about stuff on a computer, and then you go do it. So what am I doing? I'm reinforcing what I saw, what I heard. I have a big picture. I have the whole part in my mind.
Yeah.
And then I'm connecting it by practicing it. Okay. And it's kind of like if you've ever learned to play an instrument, the guitar, a piano, or anything. Well, you're not going to learn how to play it unless you do what? You're going to practice it, right?
Yeah.
Funny story. I have a brother that played the tuba, and he was like a virtuoso tuba player. I mean, he was unbelievable, and he practiced 8 hours a day all summer long. And my parents were getting phone calls. Could you please get that kid off the tuba?
I'm tired of hearing it, John.
You could hear. You could hear it all.
John Sousa March.
No, it was more. He could play Flight of the Bumblebee.
Oh my word! Wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, but when you do that, it almost becomes second nature. It's that muscle memory. So back to, the video I'm watching, trying to learn how to do something. Take the part and do it. And then come back later and do it again. And you're going to build muscle memory. And then pretty soon you're going to be doing that thing without even thinking about it. So what has happened is it's come from short-term memory when you were first introduced to it.
Yeah.
You come back, you practice, you're disciplined, and then it's going to, you're going to review, and then pretty soon it'll be in your long-term memory. And guess what? You've learned a new skill. If you do that every day or once a week in your lifetime, because remember, I'm a lifetime learner.
Yeah.
Think about how much I could learn in a lifetime just by doing that.
Oh yeah, definitely powerful. I mean, discipline is like, oh yeah, Lori, like, that's a powerful, word.
Yeah.
Discipline. I mean, because if you don't if you don't have discipline, because motivation comes and goes, it's not there every day. You wake up one morning, all of a sudden motivation, boom, it's gone. You're like, well, what happened to the motivation? Well, guess what? The discipline is there, right? And you're concentrating on the discipline, and then all of a sudden, then you're like, you're creating that discipline like you're talking about. A schedule, you're staying consistent, then you're going to see results, by having that, consistency going there. So, I agree with that, wholeheartedly for sure. So, yeah.
Good stuff.
100% on that. 100%. One of the things that I teach my for example, my TW3 members, when they'll buy one of my packages where I'm teaching them how to do whatever, like maybe I'm teaching them how to design funnels and workflows or whatever. The very first thing that I always say is same thing, Lori. I say, go through it once and just watch it, then go back and try it. Because if you try it along the way the first time, you're not going to have a clue what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. But you watch it first, get an idea of the overall scope, and then go back and do it and, and follow along, whatever. But my first sergeant, when I was in the United States Army, we had this, this is going to be a fun story for you guys. So we did this exercise where we were doing a little war game, right? And we had one side of us was on the opposition side, and the other side was on the defending side. Well, the opposition's coming in and they just like sack the place, right? And I'm on the other side, right? I'm on the defender side, and everybody around me, and I'm just a what? I think I was a PFC at the time, right? Just a little guy in the game. And everybody is running around like chickens with their head cut off, right? They're like, where's the first sergeant? Nobody could find the first sergeant. Because without the first sergeant, nobody had a clue what to do about it, right? So I'm looking around and I go, well, there's the first sergeant up there in that tree. And I go, hey, first sergeant. He said, shut up, Miller, get up here. So up I go, right? And he's like, don't tell anybody I'm up here. And I'm just watching. And I said, well, what are we watching exactly? And he sits there and he explains the whole thing out to me. And he says, now watch, you see what these guys are doing right here? In response, I bet you these guys over here, that platoon's going to do one of two things. They're going to do this or they're going to do that. And sure enough, they would. And he said, now when they do that, these guys are going to respond by doing this. And sure enough, they would. And I said, my goodness, how do you know what they're going to do, First Sergeant? And he said, let me tell you something. Private Miller, never stop being trainable, because the moment you do, the world will pass you by. Yeah. He's 100% accurate with that statement. 100%.
Yeah.
I've lived by that code ever since, and if you see my whole office is wall-to-wall bookshelves, except for this big TV behind me, right? But it's wall-to-wall bookshelves in here. And I got a book on every subject matter that I could ever want to know about. People say, well, do you got a book on blah, blah, blah? And I go, yep. And they go, really? I had somebody say, well, what about if I want to learn how to cut a diamond? I go, yep, I got a gem fastening book over here. And they go, what?
Yeah, it's amazing how you'll find that all of these things later on, I didn't realize this time, but you learn this thing, you learn this thing, and learn this thing, and it's amazing how they start tying together later on in life. How you'll take a little bit of everything you've learned and form this whole new thing. It's amazing how that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And you gotta be trainable. Look, you guys make fun of me all the time, right, over here, because you're like, well, Chris's funnels just say go away. And my funnels do say go away, right? Because what am I doing? Somebody is going to become a member of TW3 on my team. What are they doing? They're hiring me to teach them how to do something in their business that they're struggling with, right? They can't figure it out, whatever. How do I know that I can work with them? I make them jump through a lot of hoops. Yeah. If they don't jump through the hoops, I don't want them around anyway, because I can't work with these people, right? I know they're not trainable.
Yeah.
But if they're willing to jump through all the hoops that I do, man, they're trainable.
No, it's brilliant psychology what you're doing. You're absolutely testing them right on the front end to see what they're making.
I'm surprised that Chris doesn't say, first thing I want you to do is go get a shovel and go dig a hole. And they're going to say, why do I have to dig a hole? It doesn't matter why, just go dig the hole.
Just go do it, right.
and that's how you tell. If someone will go and dig a hole because Chris Miller told them to, you got the right person.
The right guy.
You're going to be a great student.
Yeah. Well, another way that I also learn a whole lot, and I think this is true just for clients that we bring on and for myself, and I'm sure you guys too, just by getting yourself in environments where people are doing things that you're not doing.
Yes.
Right. And then all of a sudden, just you're in that environment and you're like, hey, I see this person doing this. If they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Hey, this person's doing that. Hey, if they can do it, I can do it. Right. So that's where I get like inspiration, that'll hit me just by putting myself in things I might not be comfortable with. And I'm also keeping that door open, learning, just like Chris was commenting on too. Yeah. And so it's just amazing. You never know if it's going to hit you either. All of a sudden, we've heard the quote before, hey, some stuff is taught, but then there's some stuff that's caught.
Yeah.
Right. And so just by being in that environment, you can catch something, just like Chris was at the conference years ago, and you said one thing, Terry, that spoke to Chris like a lightning bolt. Yeah. Right. And so just those different environments are just, really powerful, and you just don't know when that is going to hit you, the inspiration that, you can take it and use that, for whatever you're doing in your business or in your life, basically.
It definitely helps the learning process for me to be around other people who want to learn and have that growth mindset, which means there's things out there that I don't know that I want to know. And I think that's what your sergeant, was it a sergeant that was talking to you, Chris?
It was my first sergeant.
Your first sergeant. I think that's what he was, keep a growth mindset. The good book says he exalts those who are humble. He exalts the humble. My takeaway is when I have a mental posture that I don't know it all, and there's always something that I could learn, then I've put myself in a position to be exalted, to get a promotion. Okay, I'm about to pick up on something I didn't know heretofore that I'm going to be able to take and really do something.
And then also too, just to kind of piggyback off of that, what I also do with clients, before I onboard any kind of client, right? Before somebody starts, they want to do it. It's a match, but then I say, hey, are you trainable? Are you coachable? Are you going to bring an open mind to this? Yeah. And you're going to bring communication to this, and you're going to wholeheartedly do this, right? Because if not, then we need to have that needs to be there.
Let's have the hard conversation now instead of 2 months from now, because it's a lot. I'd rather get it out of the way now.
Yeah, no, correct. Exactly. Because we might as well have the conversation now instead of like down the line. Then
let's break up before we get married, because I don't want a divorce.
Right. I don't want to take your money and then find out that every time I suggest something, you want to argue with me about why it should be done.
Yeah. And with that type of person, you can't help that person.
No.
Okay. So it's not your fault, right? They can't, but they're going to make it your fault.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
You're going to be the scapegoat. Bobby, you've been in coaching for a long time. You work with people in the sports arena and business arena and everything else. How do you help people learn? What's your approach?
Well, as the only left-hander in the group, I am definitely a ready, fire, aim person. And I never really understood the concept of learning until I actually won a trip to a Tom Hopkins boot camp in Arizona.
Nice.
And he's the one who taught me how to sell. Then, fast forward like a couple of years later, I was actually in a position where it was my job to introduce Tom to the crowd. And when I was with him, like in the green room and all of that getting ready, is when I really got my education about what he does. And he talked to me about the concept of learning and how it's an everyday thing. Zig Ziglar, I had the same experience with Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy. When I got to know these people and interact with them on a one-on-one basis before we walked out on the stage, and, to be able to share a stage with those guys was unbelievable. But the one thing that they had in common was they were all voracious readers. They all had massive libraries, and it all kind of tied together. Zig Ziglar was in the very late stages of his life, and this was after the stroke. He was still reading and learning 3 hours a day is the way he started his day. He started off with his quiet time. He started off with his Bible, and then he got into 3 hours of learning. Now, here's a guy who probably has forgotten more about sales than any of us will all know. But even he was still learning, late into his life. And that's a huge lesson. And there was a quote by Jim Rohn, and he stressed to me, and the biggest takeaway I ever got from Jim Rohn was, he says, when you walk into a person's house, he said, if you're impressed by their TV, you're in the wrong house. He said, ask the person to show you their library.
Yes.
And he said, the people you want to be friends with and hang out with are the people that have impressive libraries. He said, forget about the big screen TV. And that really hit home. And my wife is, I'm driving her crazy. Because we have books everywhere. And I think at one point I was well over 2,000 books. And she was just begging me to get rid of them. And so I said, okay, we'll put them in storage when we got ready to move. I had 110 bankers boxes full of books. And like Chris, on every subject imaginable.
Well, I just want to encourage you and Chris, there's this new thing you might not have heard of. It's called an e-reader, and you can get them.
It's not the same.
You can have thousands of books in a little iPad.
Speaking about,
well, actually, I've got about 600 right here.
Speaking about these guys that like Brian Tracy and Tom Hopkins, and it's like he's speaking right now, and Brian Tracy sends me an email. Dude's like 79, almost 80 years old. He's still out working. He's still out training. He's still, doing his thing. He's a lifelong learner too. Yeah. And so it goes perfect timing with what you're talking about, Bobby. Just perfect timing.
All right. I want to put a pin in this because we've all said the same thing, which I agree with. But I want you guys to workshop my language here a little bit, because we're all in the same space and work with the same type of folks, in the fact that we have people come to us and say, hey, I've been working this 9-to-5 job. I've had this corporate gig. I've had this. The economy's changed on me. The world's changed on me. And I would like to have my own thing. And I'm wanting to move from being an employee to an employer. And they hear podcasts like this and others. And it's true. There's been a cliche on my podcast since 2008 that says earners are learners and leaders are readers. If you want to go to the next level, you got to grow to the next level. I am a huge proponent of learning, as you guys know as well. But here's the flip side of that coin, and I'm trying my best to sharpen my language. There are people that you and I have had in our respective books of business, and you probably all can think of one right now, that they buy a coaching system from you, a coaching package, and they become a perpetual student rather than a producer. They have a mindset that says, I've got to know everything before I'll do anything. Until I can learn everything there is to know about everything and make this thing absolutely perfect, I'm not going to do the first thing. So I want us to speak to that person who wants to learn, and we're wanting to encourage you to learn. But when do you start moving into action rather than it's just staying in this philosophical? Because I can read a book all day long about business, and I can get excited. Grant Cardone talking about real estate, this person's talking about this, and boy, I can get jacked up. But until I do the first thing, it makes no money. So what do you say to that person that finds himself in just this perpetual reading about it rather than doing it?
Well, they're making perfect the enemy.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're trying to do everything by the book. I want to have it where there's no mistakes or the fewest mistakes you could possibly think of. And so they're majoring in the minors. Okay. And they need to be minoring in the majors. Okay,
Yes.
the other way around. So that way the activity is basically going to move the needle for whatever that somebody's doing. So yeah, it's good to learn and follow training, but you also want to get moving forward because, mistakes are going to happen. You want to make, the average person is going to say, make mistakes. Wait, I don't want to do that. You want to make mistakes in business. Okay.
Yes.
Because it's natural. It's going to educate you because you're going to, hey, I did that wrong. I'm not going to do that again. Or, hey, I did this right. I'm going to add that to that, but I messed up on this, and they're going to learn from that. So if they're not failing, they're not moving forward. Okay. So, and it's a skill set that you work on, there to do that. Most people want to have it. Well, not most people, but there are a percentage that want to have it too perfect. And those people are going to get in their own way. Okay.
Well, don't you think most people they have a fear of failure? And that's probably what they just don't want. They emotionally don't want to go through failing because it does hurt to fail. But that's something you have to push through, don't you?
It's an emotion, when you failed, you can get down on yourself, and stuff. And you're like, why did I do that? But then you have to shake that off, and then just move forward. Yeah. For that. Yeah.
All you really found was I don't call it failure. It's just basically something that didn't work.
Yeah.
And, that's why I go by the philosophy of ready, fire, aim.
Yeah.
Because at some point you got to get in the game and you got to get your uniform dirty.
Yeah.
And, you can't get to the Hall of Fame without a dirty uniform.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I always talk about with, whether it be a kid that I'm coaching. I was talking to Grant Cardone's president, Jared.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he said in his one of his first days working for Grant Cardone, Grant came out of his office and he saw Jared sitting there, kind of doing stuff. And Cardone goes, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm getting organized." And he said, and Cardone's comeback was, "I'm not paying you to get organized. I'm paying you to make phone calls. So pick up the phone and start calling people." And, that's right. It's like you got to get in. And, what I've got some people who are perfectionists, that are absolutely afraid of doing anything. It's like, well, I have to make sure it's right. And my comeback is, well, until you run that ad, you don't know if it's right. I mean, it might look good to you, but, if it doesn't get somebody to click a button or to pull out their credit card, it isn't right. So it's like, fail early, fail often. And then once it gets right, Katie bar the door. But, it's ready, fire, aim.
Yeah. Failure is your friend.
That's right.
I mean, yeah.
I got another comeback for you, Bobby, on that when you run across, because there are people that struggle with perfectionism. And I read this one time and it hit me, like a 2x4 in the face. It says, perfection is nothing more than procrastination trying to look like it has standards. I said, that will preach.
Tell it.
Perfection is nothing more than procrastination trying to look like it has standards. I said, I'll be using that.
Well, the first time that I went to the TW3 conference, right?
Yeah.
When I upgraded to the elite member, right? I told Gary Green, "Hey man, make it happen. I'm gonna be there." And so I went down there and I met a lot of cool people. But there was one particular couple, and if they, end up listening to this later on down the line, if they're still paying attention to what's going on in TW3, they're gonna know who I'm talking about. I'm talking to you. So they wanted to do a lot of really amazing things, right? They had a huge plan. And I spoke to them over and over again for a couple of months. When I came back to after the meeting, man, the whole drive home, I'm thinking about how I'm going to put it together, right? Because you lit me on fire and I'm like, how am I going to do it? And then when I got here and I wasn't driving, I'd made it happen. Right.
Yeah.
And months later, these guys were in the same spot that they were when I talked to them. And they said, well, we've worked on this and we've worked on that and we're working on this now. And then we're going to work on this. And then we got that to work on. And I'm all like, meanwhile, you're not making any money, And what you ask, what do I say to people like that? I say, simply put, stop thinking and just do it.
Just do it. That's right.
I literally wrote the book on the subject, folks. Stop thinking. Just go do it, because you can plan yourself out of a job in a minute. You can plan yourself out of a job, because while you're busy planning and setting things up and getting things organized, you're not bringing in a dime.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, your bills are still hitting you, Food still has to be purchased.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All of those things still have to happen. So you're either going to try it forever and say, oh God, it's just not right yet. And then you're going to go get a job because you're poor, or you're going to do it and then figure it out later.
Yeah.
Often I put together a new funnel system or a new workflow system or even a new product line, and I'll sell the thing before I built it. Because if it doesn't sell, why would I waste the time to build it?
I have never created a product that I didn't sell first. I mean, just
right.
So, I mean, you get committed when you are committed.
Right.
Well, I tell clients, I say, hey, can I make money? I said, hey, I'm going to tell you the secret. I'm going to let the cat out the bag. It's activity. Guess what? Activity equals results. Guess what? No activity. Newsflash.
No results.
Wow. I'll let the cat out the bag, right?
Well, you can buy all the gym equipment in the world, but until you pick up that first dumbbell and do it repeatedly, it really has no effect, does it? The act of buying exercise equipment does not do anything for my waistline.
Yeah. And that goes to the point, though, because buying that equipment is activity, but it's the wrong activity.
Right.
You got to put the activity where it matters.
Right.
Just say yes. Right?
Just say yes.
Right?
That's right. Lori,
go through the whole day. Just say yes, yes, yes. Hopefully, it's some good questions, some good things, right?
Absolutely.
You want to get yourself in trouble, right?
Well, I think to be a great entrepreneur and to be a business professional, there has to be an element in your personality makeup that you're a little bit of a dreamer. You can imagine because the whole reason you're doing it is because you can imagine working for yourself. You can imagine going on trips and vacations and buying the things that you want, that new dream home. Nothing wrong with that. You need that. That's the starting point, but that's not the finish line. And I think so many people, they never get out of that dream stage. And dreams are great, but they don't pay bills.
Nope.
And I can study and study and study about how Chris and Bobby and Lori and Gary, I can study and watch their videos, watch their trainings. I can study all day long. But there's here, referencing back to the good book, the difference between being a hearer of the word and a doer of the word.
Doer of the word.
It's not until I start putting the word in action that I have any hope that I can see something working for me.
Yeah, it's in the works, as they would say.
Yeah.
In the works.
Faith without works is dead. I can believe in TW3, or I can believe in whatever business someone's in. I can believe in this insurance company and what they do. I can believe in this real estate company and what they do. And you need to. And have all the faith that it does what it says it's going to do, and it helps people. That's great. Faith. That's great. But until I go out and actually do something with that faith, then I just feel good.
Yeah. But what also we teach here is also we teach confidence, how to build confidence,
yes,
right? In business. Okay. Because that's where the disconnect is, getting off the launch pad, right?
Yeah.
Is that because getting that confidence, and that's where we're all coaches and trainers, recruiters and mentors, and, a lot of expertise here on this panel, but all of us have that in common, that we are, trying to build confidence in somebody depending on what they're doing, with leads, marketing.
Right.
They need leads for another business. They need software training. They need coaching. They need to be making 1,000 a week, 5,000 a week, 8,000 a week. I mean, we just have tons of skill sets here, but the confidence starts off in the beginning.
Yeah.
Once you do the first deal, that's going to be a huge icebreaker, confidence booster, energy booster. Okay. And so, and we teach and train on how to do that here. So, yeah.
Everybody's afraid of things before they do it. You know, I mean, fear is your friend, though. Like you said, it's not the enemy.
No.
No,
I think, Bobby mentioned it, you can't look at failure as an enemy. It's actually an asset if you will repurpose it in your mind. It's only an enemy to you if you never learn from it. If you have a failure, and I love what Zig says, failure is not a person, failure is an event. And that's the first thing you got off. When you fail, it doesn't mean you're a failure. It means the activity you were doing didn't work. It has nothing to do with you. So what's under the microscope and what should be a healthy mindset would be, what did I do that did not work? Learn from it and then try another. If you learn just basic marketing numbers and metrics, it will help you out a lot. One of the things I like to tell people is I don't have to be liked by everyone. Matter of fact, 98% of the people I come in contact with can say I'm hokey, I'm crazy, I'm this, I'm that. They can have whatever derogatory thought they want toward me. I only need 2% of the people that said, hey, I like what that guy has to say. And what's the numbers in cold marketing? If you send out a 10,000 mailer piece or a bulk text or a bulk email, it's 2%, right?
Yeah.
So when you start understanding the metrics of marketing, you can start reshaping. Okay, I really don't need to take a hit on this. I don't have to feel bad here. Yeah. The best people in the world, 98% of the people that come in contact don't like what they do, yet they're highly successful.
Well, yeah, just like in baseball, right? Bobby's here. I mean, Coach Bobby. I mean, they're not hitting home runs, dingers every single pitch. Okay.
Strike out 70% of the time and make it to the Hall of Fame.
That's just, I mean, you got to condition your mind. Hey, I'm going to be failing. Yes. There's going to be a majority of people that are not going to want my product or my service or just whatever that you're, putting out there. But hey, a winner is just a loser who tried one more time.
Woo!
There you go.
Listen to that.
You guys probably have seen this statistic, and I thought it was amazing. And year after year, it's the same thing. When it talks about people's fears and what's the most feared thing, number one fear, what is it? Year after year, number one fear is public speaking.
Yeah.
Public speaking is the number one fear. When they do the survey every year. What's the number two fear? Yeah. What's the second fear? Every year. Death.
Yeah.
Death. Now, Seinfeld has a great bit on this where he says, so what that statistic tells you is there are more people afraid at speaking at their funeral than actually being the one.
I know, I saw that. That's a good one.
But fear is a big driver, and we have to deal with it, don't we?
Got to be failing forward.
Yeah.
Years ago, I was I was the top salesperson for Kirby in the state of Florida. Out of, like 4,000 or 5,000
old school
Kirby guys in the state, right? There's a lot of them. And
he couldn't get on with Rainbow. That's why
they would haul me up to the big stage, all the time. And they, once a month, and they'd say, what's your secret? And people always thought that I was being a jerk about it because I would tell them the truth. I would say, get out and knock the door. But see, what they didn't realize is that was the hardest thing in the world for me because I have a tremendous fear of meeting new people. And it has stopped me more than I can tell you over the years from doing things I wanted to do. And I would sit in front of a house sometimes for, 20, 30 minutes looking at it, going, all you got to do is get out of the car. Just get out of the car. Get out of the car. And then I would never get out of the car. And then I would eventually go, okay, I'm not getting out of this car. And I drove away, But on the ones that I would get out of the car, I'm making some money. right? Obviously, I was number one, right? So I would tell them, get out of the car and knock the door. And they thought I was being a jerk. But the reality was that was really hard for me. And you can face your fears all you want. You're never going to get over them. I don't care what anybody tells you. Your fear is going to be there.
That's right.
If it's a fear, it's a fear.
It's
going to be. I have the same fear today of meeting new people.
Absolutely.
I had then.
So glad you said that.
And I have faced it harder than any. I've been a door-to-door salesperson for 30 years.
Yeah.
Tell it.
I never got over this fear. Okay.
Right.
So if it's not going to happen for me, I guarantee you it's not going to happen for you. Get it out of your brain now that facing your fear is going to overcome it. That doesn't mean it's not worth doing.
Right.
Remember that, because you can accomplish anything you want despite fear.
That's right.
You just got to agree to look around it.
Well, because you're willing to do what other people are not willing to do.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's huge, there.
Yeah. You're hearkening back to a conversation I had with one of my sons, that they were sort of just really sad about the state of society and things going on and the cruelty of people in today's world, because they was having a hard day. And I told him, I said, listen, it's not that life gets easier as you get older. It really doesn't. I said, I'm not going to lie to you. As your dad, I have to tell you the truth. Life actually gets harder. I said, that's the bad news. Here's the good news. You get stronger. And if you keep working on yourself, you'll get so strong that in comparison, life gets easier. So work on yourself. It's not that your fears, like Chris was saying, it's not that the fear is not there, but you can work on yourself and you develop courage.
Yeah.
And courage is the thing that, I'm still afraid of this, but I'm just courageous enough to keep doing it.
Well, my son was on a baseball team years ago. He's probably like, 8 or 9. And the coach was just, piss poor. Okay.
Yeah.
Losing every game. I'm having to do all this positive talking. Let's stay in it. Come on. We want to finish it out strong.
Right.
And so it gets towards the end of the season, still haven't won a game. And so I was telling some friends of mine, I was like, hey, we still haven't won a game and this and that. And he goes, well, your son's building character. And then I said, hey, he's got enough character. We need to win. Right. The next thing you know, so we won the last game of the season.
Yeah.
So finished it off on a positive note, but he almost wanted to quit baseball after that season too. And I had to, talk to him. Hey, if he wants to still do it, let's keep it going, right? Because keep forward, working forward, right?
Yeah.
And, but that was a message there, kind of similar to what we're talking about.
Yeah, you just got to stay in it, because as the good book says, this too shall pass. Whatever you're
going. It's a learning experience.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go around the horn, and I want to ask you this final question before we wrap it up. What is a thing that you learned in your business or about business or something that comes to mind? It was like you're looking back on it and you're sort of proud of yourself. Hey, I figured this out. That it was hard. It was something that you had to learn, that, it didn't come easy to you. It wasn't something that just naturally you could do or pick up. You really, really had to. You got some blood, sweat, and tears in a particular part of your business that you can look back on now and say, I'm glad I didn't quit. I'm glad I did whatever it took to learn this. And today I can tell you I'm pretty darn good in this area or this area because I took the time to learn. So give me an example of something that you're doing in your business like that. And I'll start from top and work my way around. We'll start with Bobby and then go around the horn. Bobby, what's something that you've learned that you're sort of proud of?
Building websites. I literally decided one day when I was in the investment business, I needed a website, and I went out and bought websites for dummies and started on page 1. And by the end of the day, I had a website. It wasn't the world's greatest website, but I had a website.
Wow.
And then I started to really learn about websites and digital marketing as a whole.
Yeah, that's cool. Lori, what's something that you're glad you stuck through it and you learned? Because today you can say, I'm better for it.
Step 2 and step 4.
Well, that's some inside baseball. You better explain what that is.
So language.
So part of our coaching program is there's design training, and there's steps 1 through 10 or whatever. And most of them are pretty basic. You just have to be able to read and do. Step 2, building your website. And I'm talking about when we were doing it the old way.
Yeah.
And step 4, your funnel the old way. This was way before we had the app and AI and all that. And, and when I came in to the business, I thought, I train people on using computer stuff. This should be step 2 and step 4 kicked my butt.
So learning to build a website and funnels.
Yeah. Because it's nothing. I didn't have any experience doing that. And I thought, well, sure, I can learn this. But when I got into it, it was harder than I thought. But it's being persistent and sticking with it until you finish it, and not giving up and just quitting or being almost scared to finish, or like you were saying, thinking that it has to be perfect before you launch. It does not.
That's the truth.
Because you know what? It's not carved in stone. Like those tablets, you can always change it.
You can always change it.
If you break it, you can always fix it.
That's exactly right.
If you don't know how to fix it, you got friends that'll help you fix it.
It's all digital, so it's all mutable. That's right.
And in the end, if you're walking through hell, just keep on walking.
Keep walking, don't stop. Like the old preacher said, if you're going through hell, don't stop. Keep going. That's right. That's great. Chris.
Water station for 18,000 miles.
Right. What's something you've learned that didn't come natural, but today you can say I'm better for taking the time and learning and picking up that skill?
Marketing, man. Marketing. I mean, the reason I joined with TW3 to begin with was because I had no idea how to get in front of people. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I could sell things. Sure. I've been doing that forever.
Right.
But I don't know how to get in front of somebody. Right. And I needed to learn that. And Gary said to me, yeah, we can teach you that. I said, okay.
Here's my money.
I looked at it as a college course. I mean, we're talking about learning here. I looked at this whole group as a learning experience. I said, look, it's the same price as if I paid somebody to send me to class.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And I looked at it from that perspective. And I'm glad. I mean, look at me today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you realize I have earned over $1 million since I got to this group?
That's awesome.
Is that nuts? That's nuts, right?
That's awesome.
And so when you look at that, when you look at that overall picture and you say to yourself, what is that one thing that you say to yourself, man, I'm glad that I didn't short myself on this and that I went all the way in. This is it. I went in there. I went in through to my luck. You kept everything, right? I went through all of your old training, right? From back, I don't know, to like, the early 90s or whatever. I'm looking at stuff.
That's 150 pounds ago.
Nobody even knows what I'm talking about. I'm like, hey, I love the golfing thing, right? People don't remember it was so long ago, right? Terry's gonna have to show you guys this sometime. But look, he's like, hey, I'm going to go golfing today, and I'm gonna get some money while I'm doing it. So watch what I do. And he goes in there. He's just like plays around with his computer for a minute. I'm just gonna put this ad out here, and now I'm gonna go golfing. And then he takes forever just teeing up a shot.
Well,
forever
big waistline.
But then he gets in there and he hits a few off, and he comes back. Let's see how I did. He makes like $800 going golfing. I loved it. I thought it was perfect.
Yeah.
You know, but that was marketing, right? That was marketing. And that's what I had been learning. And I was like, see, this is going to serve me so well for the future. And it certainly did.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Gary, what's something you've learned that didn't come natural, but you're better for it today because you took the time and the emotional energy to learn it?
Well, I have to say, when everything switched over to the new software, that was like a monster for me, man. I was like going,
Gary says, I've been with you for a decade now, and it's been this way, and now you change.
I looked over at Chris, man, at the conference. He's over there getting to work and entering templates in and stuff like that. I'm like, this is Chinese. I'm like, what's going on here, man? I said, I gotta wrangle this in, right? So, I did. I didn't quit.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely something there. When a lead comes in, it's connected to that workflow with the messaging and that automation, that sequence there. It's some technology, and we teach this in a basic training before you start. Now, but back when we transitioned, it was we're in the learning phase and everything else there. But definitely very grateful that I took the time out and continuing, spend time on the training on how it works. And I still don't know everything, right?
Yeah.
I'm not making everything perfect like we talked about earlier, right?
Yeah.
So, but I know enough to definitely, be successful, with the product line there. But that definitely jumps out is the workflow. There's just so many different things that you can do with the lead, text and email, voice drop, live call transfer, send out emailing and texting them for the rest of their life, basically giving yourself an opportunity to turn them into a lifelong customer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a powerful thing, a piece of technology and know-how to have in your back pocket in business with this software. And this software is the latest stuff that's out there in the marketplace, and where we're at right now with technology. So that definitely jumps right out to the forefront there. I'm glad I took the time out to learn it, but I was learning, even though I'm like good in sales and communication, technology, sometimes I have to spend a little more time with it and stuff like that. But I definitely didn't quit. I kept going. I kept working at it, and just really, really grateful that I didn't stop.
Yeah.
With that. So that's just, one thing for sure. 100%.
For sure. Yeah.
Can I add a question to that, Gary?
Yeah.
Since doing that, since diving into the automation sets up, right? And all the things that the app can do for you. What's it done for you as far as your work and your output?
Yeah. I can manage my time. I can scale my time back substantially, there on my time, so the main thing is a workflow, right? Every time you make a workflow, you save hours, at least an hour, 2-3 hours per week, right? Per workflow. So as you get that, and we teach you that, with the basics.
Plus you're talking to up to 30 people at a time now, rather than one-on-one with that workflow. And
that's true.
So you're able to scale, because I'm seeing your output as far as enrollments and stuff exponentially just shoot up. And I asked you a few weeks ago, what are you doing? You said, well, I'm talking to 20, 30 people at a pop now.
Right.
All at the same time. So that way, I used to do individual appointments. I stopped that years ago.
Yeah.
So now I do just where it's, I do one call every couple of days. Or one in the afternoon, then one in the evening. So if somebody needs to connect in the evening, so you're able to scale that in a big way, and you can also manage time, much better, that way, there too as well. So
because
it's better for your blood pressure. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. Well, when you can do group sales and group coaching, then you can scale your business. Because all this automation is just corralling all the people for you and reminding them and then following up for you. And then all you're doing is the group coaching and the group call. So that's great.
I just click a button. Like once everything is wrapped up, right? I just click a button, all of a sudden, boom, Workflow takes off, and that way it's you're working smart, not hard. Without question. So,
And it's a different dynamic too, right? I mean, when you're one-on-one, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of like awkward silences that you have to wait forever for them to come around to get to the point. When you're in that group setting, though, those things disappear.
Yes.
When then you ask them a question. Yeah. And then also it saves a ton of time in the front end because you go, hey, give me a little bit more information about yourself. They go, well, it all started back in 1985, back when I moved and I loaded up the truck and I headed south. And I'm thinking, whoa. I said, whoa.
What I meant was, how old are you? What's your name?
I need your social security number and your blood type. I mean, hold on now.
I should have qualified this question better.
But anyway, when I started doing group sessions, I was a little nervous, right?
Yeah.
Starting to do it for the first time. So I had a couple of people on there to start off, and I said, okay, let's see how this is going to go. So, I made some mistakes, but then I made some, I did things correctly too.
Yeah.
Right? So after a series of those calls, then it's like, it's a lot easier, stuff like that. And so there's pros and cons. You just adjust and change and move forward. And so it's definitely helped out my business tremendously for sure. So
that's cool.
And it'll never be perfect. I mean, people that are waiting around for it to be perfect, I'm going to tell you straight out, it's never going to be perfect. I've written multiple books. I've gone back to those books and made revisions years later. You're always revising your books. That's why you get, a next edition.
Yeah.
Right. The same thing is with your business. It's never going to be, just last week, I guess, I revamped a website that I've had up there for 2 years. Completely different. It's never going to be perfect. Just do it.
And we have over 1,000 websites that we've added into the platform just recently. And you can sell those and make residual income unlimited, and you get all the money.
Yeah.
There. So it's a lot of different income streams.
And with all the software as a service type things that you can do that we went over tonight, in our mastermind, there's all kinds of ways that you can serve your community. And do a good job for them and save them money, and then you make a good living as well. So I like that. Well, guys, it's been great, and I think I have learned a ton tonight just on how to learn. And it's so important to be a lifelong student, as you guys have saying, but don't make perfect the enemy of good. Don't try to dress up procrastination as, something with standards, or perfect. Something with standards, I guess. A procrastination with standards is what perfectionism is. But, I was thinking the one thing, this is going to sound weird, but the one thing that I did and I learned how to do, y'all going to think this is so weird, but I can draw a direct line from building this business back in 2008, this platform, when we started on it. Because I knew nothing about computers or anything. The only reason we was able to sell online is in my music business because of eBay, and I didn't build anything on eBay. It was just an online store. So how did I learn to build websites? Because this technical stuff doesn't come natural to me. It all started with having to replace a serpentine belt on a 3-deck mower. Believe it or not, I'm not mechanically minded at all. I'm not. And when we was going through our, bankruptcy and all this, losing everything, we didn't have no money. And I always had money, and I just paid a landscaper. I never had to cut my own grass. So my grass was getting knee high, and I had a family member give me a lawnmower, but the lawnmower didn't have a belt. Well, I don't know anything about fixing lawnmowers, and I don't have the money to pay anyone to fix the lawnmower. So I'm out there, and this is back before you could go to YouTube and learn anything like you can nowadays. I'm on the ground, and so literally for 2 or 3 hours, I'm on just trying to figure out how to get this belt in there to get these 3-deck mowers all hooked up. But I literally just prayed and said, Lord, you're going to have to help me. And I did not quit. And I just kept doing it. And finally I figured it out and fixed it. Fast forward to 2008, when this this platform is being built. Same thing happened to me. And what did one have to do with the other? I got to thinking, if I could put a belt on a lawnmower, surely I can with this laptop build a website. You know, you have to have these small little wins that you are proud of yourself about, that I didn't quit, because my normal mode of operandi would have been quit, get frustrated, and just throw up my hands. But I didn't. So I tell everybody, don't quit on yourself, because you'll be proud of yourself later on when you pushed through, you persisted, you got a bloody nose for it. And yes, it was frustrating, but you need that little win so that the next time you face that next devil, because every new level comes a new devil, you can say, I can beat this one too. Because winning and losing is a habit. And you got to get in the habit of winning. And so many times people are in the habit of losing, and a losing mindset to me is just like, oh, I've got this thing, I don't know how to do it, learning is hard, I quit. Can't do that. So that's my soapbox message at the end.
That's the habit too.
Love it.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, I know that we're wrapping this up, but we got a question that I told him if you put a question in, we'll answer it.
Yeah.
So we got a question from Ron, and he wants to know, how do you figure out what you want to make a workflow on in business, right? So how do you come up with a concept for a workflow to help you do something? That's basically his question.
I have an answer, but I'll let you guys workshop it first. But it's more of it's principles I go by. And I'll give my answer and then you guys go. But I don't try to automate a problem I don't have yet. I go through an entire sales process in whatever vertical I'm working, and then I figure out, okay, I've got to call them, and then I got to follow up with them, and then at this stage they need to see this video, and then after they see this video, they need to be sent over here, and they get to fill this form out, and then so I'm in real time figuring out a sales process, and then once I figure that process out, then I start automating portions of it that I don't want to deal with, and maybe not want to deal with any of it. But that's the way I do it. I don't try to solve a problem I don't have yet. Mm-hmm. So I think the first thing to do is build your bucket of leads, and then in that bucket you start having this conversation based on, because every product is different, every service is different. Sometimes you need to make micro commitments. You're wanting to warm them up, because sometimes if I'm fishing over in this hole, and the whole context of me catching that fish over in this hole was for this purpose, but my end result, my end goal is to have them over to a completely different purpose, then it's bait and switch if I pivot too hard, right? If I go, hey, I'd like to talk to you about Ford trucks, opt in. As soon as they opt in, now let me talk to you about this lollipop. Well, that was just like, what? That's bait and switch. But if I say, let's talk about this Ford truck, they opt in. Did you know Ford comes equipped with this, and this? And today's Ford, we even offer it with this particular CD player. Click here if you'd like more information about this CD player, and then go CD. Did you know that this CD player plays and it comes with these, and these albums? And then I work my way down this conversation to it's something that I wanted to get to, you know. So, but I have to do that in a real time conversation to see, where did I lose them? When did I irritate them? When did they naturally come? And then I start automating as I go along. That's the way I do it.
You irritate people?
All the time. All the time. There's not a person on this panel I haven't irritated. What are you talking about? and you guys like me.
We love you.
We tell you that anyway.
Well, you tell me. You act like it anyway. So I know.
I do something similar, except I do it on paper first, right? So I'll make a map.
Yeah.
And I'll map out my sales process. And then when I see it in front of me in my paper, I go, oh yeah, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Do this over here first. And that's what I do. And then after that, I create a funnel for it. or a workflow or whatever. And then once I do all that, I realize I don't like the way any of that works. I usually start over. So
yeah. Well,
that's my way of doing it.
Because the only way I can tell you is there used to be this software years ago called Cakewalk, and it was a music software, and you hooked it up to your MIDI keyboard, and it would chart what you were doing. You would play on the piano or the keyboard, and then it would put on the chart what the actual notes were. That's the way I do business. I honestly have to do everything by ear, and that's what I mean. I'm doing it in live. I cannot chart the music and then go play it. I have to get out there and be with the people, talk to them, have this process, do it in real time, and it's all off the cuff. Nothing is pre-planned. I'm doing it by ear in the moment, and then I'm picking up on how you're responding, and I keep doing this. I keep working this chord progression with this beat and stuff, and then I say, okay, they're starting to bob their head here. Okay, and then I'm looking at my software that's keeping track of what my fingers are doing, and I say, okay, that's the chord progression, that's the beats, and then that's when I start. I'm right opposite. You're charting and then playing. I have to play and then look to what the chart looks like as I do it. But I'm opposite that, or weird that way, I guess.
What about you, Bobby? You do that for a living. You're like the funnel king.
I chart everything out. You can see it right there. I have a big whiteboard right behind me, and I map out every step, and then I try to figure out what the person's response is going to be. And because you have to A/B test everything, because you just don't know what's going to work. I mean, I put some stuff out a couple of weeks ago that I thought was beautiful. I mean, I got no response. Then I put out the ugly duckling, and everybody started clicking, and it's like, really?
Cannot tell you how many times that's happened to me, Bobby. Swear.
If anybody listening ever thought that to do this stuff is easy, let us listen to what we're saying right now.
Yeah, I can't tell you. I mean, some of the things that I thought would never work have worked great, and you never know until you start building something. I actually break down a big, let's say like a funnel as it works its way into a workflow. I'll run 2 or 3 at the same time to see which one's going to get the best results. And because I'm really curious as to where people get off.
Yeah.
The flow of things. Yeah. And wanting to try to fix that. And a lot of times you can't really tell. And so I break it down, I'll take maybe a 10-step funnel, and I'll break it down into, say, 3 funnels where I can measure each step. And, a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah.
And, when you study ads, especially on Facebook, there's a lot of tools out there that you can use, and you just have to keep trying things, different color combinations, different button shapes, different calls to action. And, even
your images and things.
Yeah.
Your images.
Yeah. And, certain parts of the country like certain things. And like one thing that I know, a red button in Alabama does more than a green or a yellow button.
I guarantee you.
On it. And so what did I do? When I found out the red worked, what red do I use? Crimson Tide red.
Absolutely.
And the stuff in North Carolina, it's either Duke blue or it's Carolina blue.
Yeah.
Well, we know which one.
No, that would
God
be
pulls
Kentucky
for by the
blue.
sky. You can just look up at the clear sky in the day and tell which one God's pulling for, Bobby. Come on.
I know.
Yeah, it is part art and part science, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, the X's and the O's of this technology, the binary code, the all of this software, that's all the tech. but it's just like, piano's got 88 keys on it, but it's who touches it, how they touch it. Depends on, what kind of music they're going to make. And this software they're no different, It's what you as a person infuse it with your personality, and all of that. There's so much to it.
Yep.
So.
Well, there you go, Ron.
Bam, bam, out on the left coast.
Bam, bam. We need more cowbell.
We need
bam,
more
bam.
cowbell. Bam, bam. Great stuff. Well, guys,
tell them that, right?
This has been episode 2 of the Big 5 podcast, and we hope that you have learned a lot tonight. And, my takeaways have been, be a lifelong student, but don't wait till you know everything before you do anything. Get in there and get started. Don't be afraid to fail. And don't make perfect the enemy of good. And what else did we learn? That was my takeaways.
Don't be a Mr. Know-It-All.
Don't be a Mr. Know-It-All. Always have a growth mindset. None of us. I mean, there's 5 people on here tonight that do fairly well with their online business, and we're still trying to learn more.
What happened to that guy, Mr. Know-It-All? Whatever happened to him, right?
Well, he's at a food bank now looking for benevolence. It happens. So anyway, we will talk to you guys later and hope you enjoyed tonight's podcast. Till next time.
Inspiring, informative, and informational.
This is TTW3.